And
it's good stuff.
camera 2 has started rolling.
Yeah, the shot that you like.
You're ready? Yeah, I love this shot, man.
Nice to see you, man.
Good to see you. You ready?
Yeah. Yes.
You ready for us to kick off?
Yes, let's talk.
Let's talk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of The Playhouse. I know guys are seeing the man in front of the screen and they're like, what? I never saw The Playhouse going in this direction. Yeah, there's so many different directions we go, man.
Yeah.
And the gentleman that we have today, I can say is responsible, is one of the people in our generation who are responsible for shaping worship culture across the continent.
That's good.
That's good.
I don't know.
I'm serious. You are responsible for shaping, for transitioning worship culture and making it relevant to this generation. And you're not just doing that in Kenya.
Wow.
You've been doing that in different countries.
Wow. So kind.
You have been in the industry for how many years?
Hey.
From 19?
Let me put it this way. I've been in the ministry, doing ministry work since 19 in the 80s. Then my purpose, my mission to Africa from 1996.
From 19.
So we're in 2019 now, so 23 years, yeah.
23 years.
Yes,
you are definitely a real OG. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are definitely going to enjoy today. Don't mind the aeroplane passing, but we're going to have an amazing session as the man and I have a conversation.
Yeah.
So put your hands together for none other than Timothy Kaberia.
Hands together.
Like those Shangilia, but
yeah, man, I'm that guy.
So welcome to the Playhouse.
Thanks so much, man.
I can call you Kaberia. I'm not used to the Timothy.
No, Kaberia. Call me Kaberia. In fact, if anything, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's better. Yeah.
So Kaberia, welcome to the Playhouse. Thank you so much. I know things have happened that we've not been able to have this.
Yes.
But I'm glad we are
God's time.
Here.
God's time is always the best.
God's time, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get straight into this. On the Playhouse, I like starting this thing way back.
Yeah.
And my question always is, when do you think that you fell in love with music? And for you, when did you fall in love with, is it worship or even just music?
Yeah. Well, I could say I grew up, my parents, my dad got born again in 1971. That's what it tells me. And he was heavily involved in ministry work in the Methodist church and doing a lot of preaching. My mom, on the other hand, wanted to serve God. And from her family's point of view, the only place she knew how to serve God is to go to the convent and become a nun, because they're Catholics. And so she started, and she went to the convent and so on, hoping that one day she'll even get to university and do stuff. Then along the way, she realized that this is not the only place she can serve God. Or let me put it this way, there are better ways of serving God than just being inside the convent. So I want to go out there and touch people's lives and so on. So my dad is preaching, he was 70s, going, sometimes being sent on missions to preach in places like Anglican churches around Butere and so on, and he's working in Narok because he left Meru, Deep Meru, dropped out of school because the family was so poor, and he decided, he was the firstborn, he decided he's going to take care of his family. So he goes and finds a job in Narok, in a disease office or DO, something like that. All I know, yes, one of those Ds. All I know is that there was only one vehicle in Narok around that area, and it was for their office. So my mom is in Meru in a convent, wanted to become a sister, and she actually goes up the ranks, and she was wearing a white habit. I think that time it was closer to one of the top ranks. But she meets this person who, she just says, I want to go out and touch people's lives and also get an education, get college level and so on. She had gone to high school and so on. Somehow she left the convent and was able to go as a nun and pursue teaching because she's not able to go to university. So as she's pursuing teaching, she's sent to work after in her first job in Narok. So they meet. They meet, and my mom at that time had many questions. She's saying, there's something greater than just doing what I'm doing. And there's nothing wrong with the Catholic Church, but she opted to leave. She got born again. She opted to leave and say, I can serve God without being necessarily in the order of these Catholic sisters, and I can still serve God because I've accepted Christ in my heart. And after that, she decided, you know what, I'm not going to live a celibate life. Let me get married. Mm-hmm. So I was born when they were living in Narok. That is.
Can I ask what year this was?
1976.
1976.
So they then miraculously. Now my dad, remember, he left his poor family back, and they're very close with his mom up to now. She's still alive, my grandma.
Whoa.
And he tells me that one day he gets home after work in Narok, and he finds his mom at home. This is in the 70s. This person has come from deep shags in Meru. And when I'm talking about Meru, is deep Meru. And has traveled all the way to Narok to visit the son. My dad was moved by that event, and he said, we can't settle this. We can't do this. Let me go closer to you, because he really loves his family, loves his mom, and he wanted to up their living and so on. So one day, they open a newspaper, and my mom says, sees an advertisement about a school in Nyeri where they needed a storekeeper, a storeman. And it's like, reluctantly said, okay, let's just write a letter and see. And from then on, it actually happened. He got a job at this school in Nyeri. So we moved. So by the time they're moving to Nyeri, I'm 9 months old. In that school, it was that's the time when now Kenya was growing. Most of the settlers who had lived in Central Province and the highlands, they were still there but fading away, giving work to the the Africans. So he was replacing a European British lady to take up the job that he was coming to do in that school.
Mm-hmm. And what was that job?
A storeman, actually, a storeman, like procurement, storekeeper, and stuff like that. So because of that, now the environment I found myself in was a former colonial school, a former British European school that had so much facilities that included 5 pianos.
What? 5 pianos?
Yes, yes.
This is the school in Nyeri?
Yes. Now you talk about the 70s to 80s. That's what I found. So, my mom, she passed away, but she used to tell me that I was into music. Now, my dad is really grounded in the Methodist Church. And the Methodist Church, the liturgy is close to the Anglican Church, but there was no congregation in Nyeri at that time. Most of them were in Meru and in the coast. Mm-hmm. So he felt that why don't we join a fellowship that feels like home, and also start having a conversation about starting the Methodist Church here. So somehow divinely he connected with this man who became his best friend. This man, now we're in Nyeri. So this man is the catechist of the Kingongo prisons. For those of you who know what Kingongo prisons is. The government of Kenya has run institutions like prisons, police, and so on, heavily chaplained by the Catholic Church, and in the Protestant version by the Anglican Church. Mm-hmm. So it's like the Church of England, which is Anglican Church that oversees anything matters of England. So it's the same concept that was left here. So in that institution, the chaplaincy and now him as a catechist is the one who used to take care of services in the chapel. Mm-hmm. This man now, they became very good friends with my dad. My dad is not a pastor. He's not a pastor. So at this point, he's not a pastor. He's just a guy who works for the DCs, for the government.
And loves God.
And loves God, civil servant. And now he's a storeman in a school with a little office. And God just allowed it to happen that we were housed in the school, and that's all I knew in this big compound, in a community, beautiful community. So growing.
What was the name of the school?
Nyeri Primary School, which is now known as Moyo Nyeri Complex. People, depending on where people are at. And And he's gotten now across, adjacent the road from there is King'ong'o prisons, and they become very good friends with the catechist there. And the catechist trusts him to put him on the program for the chapels, the community chapels. Those days in the 80s, Kenya communities were really tight. So I'm talking about now, we settled between 76 and joined the fellowship in I started realizing, seeing life when I'm probably 1981, 82. So now we started going to church there. That was our church at the prisons in King'ong'o. The community chapel, the community was small, so people around that area were going to the prisons, such that even the estate around the prison was called King'ong'o. So that's how my recollection of my Christian life and so on. So it is said that I would love it, I would brighten up when anybody in the chapel is singing, either a hymn or whatever. So my dad was given opportunities. The favor he got with this man was given opportunities to be in the service, to be leading service, to be serving communion, to be preaching. But it's just this guy who works in the store, And in key events, every year, either Christmas or Easter, specifically is maybe Easter, the maximum prisoners who were not allowed to leave, a few trusted ones who are actively involved in the choir would be released to come to the chapel and sing to the community. Either the guys
were on life sentence and things like that.
Yeah, we talk about life. And King'ong'o that time I think was the third maximum after Kamiti and Naivasha. I don't know if it still is right now. So these are life.
I love the history that you're giving.
Yeah, it's life. So my life was between the school community and the prisons community. And so every once a year, during Easter, two things would happen. Either the prisoners' choir, we talk about 60 men, maximum
guys were on serious
on serious sentences, would come and sing and perform in the chapel. And it's like a small chapel. If you watch those black movies where you have like a small chapel, guys fanning themselves, those kind of life. Oh gosh, that's what we had. And they would come and take up like a third of that space and just sing. 60 voices. They're talking about baritone, tenor, bass. Those guys had inherited a culture of proper etiquette, of standing and sitting and singing out, and projecting their voices to the extent that the conductor, who is also a prisoner, had to wear white gloves and the orchestra conducting stick. That I remember even right now. So my mom tells me that I would stand next to this guy conducting and, pretend that I'm conducting. Then I would be very fascinated by the percussive instruments, because those days it was purely percussion. Either, the prisoners would spend their days making drums, either elongated, like what you have congas now.
All those stuff that we used to study.
Yes. But now, now they would take plywood and do like long tube drums that you can play with the hands, or make a form of drum kit now, but there's no skin on top, it's just purely plywood. That's what they used to spend most of the day doing, sell some of those stuff and display them in the showrooms and come with them also to church. Nice. Then they also used to make shakers. So I would admire the shakers. So my dad, my nice dad. One day he gets I think a staff trip from the school. They go to Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi. He goes and picks a kayamba and shakers for me. Ooh. So maybe by the time I think of 3 or 4 there in 1979, 1980, I found some shakers. So I grew up with those two things, some two plastic ones. They're funny, white plastic with dengus inside. And some mchanga there. And you can open up and then close them. And I'll play. And that's how I learned rhythm. I was just like that.
What?
This kayamba looked like it was something that I cannot reach. So when I grew up kidogo, I started playing the kayamba a little bit.
Pin on this story, because I'm going to come back and you've just explained to me something.
Yes. So kayamba. Then, because of the inspiration that I used to get from these prisoners when they would come, I joined the choir, the community chapel choir, because now there were 3 choirs. There was community chapel choir, There was the medium prisoners who used to be released to come every Sunday, choir, and then now there's a maximum choir for the prisoners used to be released only once a year to come and perform. So on a regular Sunday, every Sunday, the community choir was singing. The community means the people around will go to chapel. So I joined the choir. Since I was small, I was in soprano, but then I was also interested in.
You're 4.
That time now
or is it like a bit later?
That later. Now I'm 6, 7.
Okay.
This is around 83, 84. I got born again in 1980 when I was 7 that year, 1983, because now I was exposed to these things and there were Christians around me, and my mom would have any guest come home and they start giving, oh, how are you? I'm fine. Before they have tea, how are you? Welcome to my house. How have you been? I've been fine. You know, Jesus has been Lord. He's kept us. My family is okay. There's this whole testimony. Then my mom would tell me, see, when you say what you're doing, because I'm seated there with her. I grew up with my mom, you know, and most of the time I used to hang out with her.
Do you have other siblings?
No, I don't have siblings. So I used to spend a lot of time with my mom. So my dad is working in the office. My mom has come from class. She was a teacher. And so I spent most of the time there. And then when there's a guest, I just listen to them. Those days, there was no chai fast. It's testimony fast. Then chai. You know what I'm saying? And food or whatever it is. So then she'll tell me, so you give a testimony. So I'm like, so you've already talked on behalf of our family. You said we are fine, and so on. So that's when I started questioning her since a young age. What is this thing that you guys talk about? God, when you break it down to Jesus. I actually asked her that, and she explained to me. And she used to read the Acts of the Apostles, used to love the stories of Paul and all that stuff. So I knew there was something deeper.
And you're 7, 6, 7?
Yeah, 6, 7. So then one day we just attend, she tells me, take me to this teacher's college, Kamonja Teacher's College, for a meeting. And we go. And there was what is called a rally. Now rally is a crusade version indoors. It's a crusade indoors. A crusade is outdoor, then a rally is indoor. So I think the college had invited people and called different colleges and just had someone speak. They said, if you'd like to receive Jesus as your Lord, I did not even think twice. I went. I turned back, well, we were prayed for and I received Christ with amongst another group of people and adults, and I turned back and I looked at the face that my mom had when I was walking back to her. I knew I'd made a very important decision. She was beaming, boss. She was beaming. I'd never seen her like that. And this is someone who had come from a convent, is not your typical charismatic tongue-speaking person. It's just someone who loves Jesus and knows what it's all about. And my dad had inspired her to know Christ. And now she's explained to me what it's all about, and it seems like it's very important because of the way she's beaming. From then on, it was just join the choir. Now back to my prison story. Join the choir, plug in, sing soprano. Then I was given kayamba to play. I used to play. I played the kayamba. I was a senior kayamba player of the community chapel. That even teenage girls and other guys wanted to play would be like, "Bana," and we're not getting a chance to play. We were like 3 kayamba players, but I was the main. If there's a major gig like a wedding or something, or prison competitions, because we used to have them.
Yeah.
We used to have festivals for prison. We travel to Ruiru and Nairobi and stuff. I was the main guy. So that's how my music really. And let me tell you something that I intentionally like telling.
Were you in school at this time?
I'm still in Nyeri Primary.
So you went to Nyeri Primary?
Yeah, I'm in
because
Nyeri Primary.
You lived in...
Yes, because I'm a staff kid.
Oh, yes.
We live in there. My mom got a job there. She was a teacher. She's a trained teacher. She got a job there. She was able to get a transfer to follow the husband, who is a storeman. So my life is there as a student, whatever I'm in class. This time when I'm getting born again, I'm in class 2. Yeah, in class 2. Class 2, 83, 84. And I'm already in the choir. Class 3. Yeah, class 2, 3, I'm already in the choir. And stuff like that. I remember so well, like 1984 was really tough for this country. There was a drought and so on, but we still, the music just kept us going.
So what's that interesting thing that you said you wanted to say?
Yeah, so we used to do, now in the choir now, because you talked about music and I was just giving this story. In the choir, we were taught using solfa notes. Solfa is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay.
There's a piano there, feel free to engage if it's need to be.
Yeah, but you see now, this conversation doesn't even have a piano because you get the pitch. If let's say do, and I tell you that's the key of the song. Then what the conductor would say is that is a do. Then we would find these days of blackboards, they're not whiteboards, blackboards with a chalk. By the time you're walking into practice, the practice I think used to be Wednesday. We have ledger books where you used to write handwritten books. I mean, everybody akonayo, they've prepared the songs, the repertoire is inside there, book, so you all carry. So you find it's written there. Do is C, for instance, that's a C I'm holding there. Do can be anything, but for now C. And then he says, this is the song you're going to learn. He's written already on the chalkboard the melody in solfa for the soprano, alto, tenor, bass. This blackboard side 1 is for the verse. Then he turns it around, he's written for the chorus. Soprano, alto, tenor, bass, the entire phrase. Now solfa is complicated because it has signs like colons and semicolons for you to know whether it's a full beat or half a beat. So, absolutely. So I've not even started piano lessons then to know there's something called staff notation, or you have crotchets and quavers. This is solfa. It's do, so is it in small d?
Yes.
If it's re, small r, then depending on the sign you've put, you know how long to pull that note. Boss, that's how I learned.
What?
And we are all seated there with a full choir of about 40 guys. I have to sing it. I'm a kid. I have to sing it. And I have to play this kayamba that looks bigger than me, because my personal kayamba at home that my dad bought for me in Bomas, it's at home, it's small like this. But no, it was actually a good size for me. But the choir had, me, I'm thinking, I can't use my personal nini. I mean, singing in the choir, man. Let me use the gear that is in the choir. The gear in the choir that has been made by the prisoners Zuko is big. And we played. I said, I have to do this thing. So you go and you just sing. Do, mi, re, fa, whatever it is. And then the basses are singing there. Then after that, when you've gotten, you sing in solfa.
You don't sing at the words.
No. Sing in solfa. After that, sasa, and either rabbi, if it was big enough, hapo chini kuna the words. They're written down there, maybe on the blackboard.
Now he changes it and writes the words.
Either change it or probably had written or writes under, and we go through the practice, and we do that probably for 2 songs or 1. That's the entire time, and then we go. Now we built that repertoire over time.
So it brought a level of discipline in you that's crazy.
Because now it is not about what we're singing on Sunday. It's about, there's a repertoire of songs that we're singing all the time. So if a gig comes up like a wedding somewhere, or the competition, or public holiday, hey, that's another remind me, I go to the public holiday. Public holidays of that time, because we used to perform. So he'll just come and tell us, for this weekend, this is what we're going to sing. Let's go through it. Now, for the modern young Christian musician, just know our songs were stories. It's a composition. I how you study compositions?
Yes.
Compositions in school. You start, you introduce like a story. It was a rainy day, what. Paragraph 2, then now you go deeper. Then you conclude. That's how all our songs were. Because it's coming from the tradition of singing hymns. That, and when the British came and brought in Christianity, a lot of that was picked up along. So even the Bible translations are based on what was done. All the Bible translations we have in our languages, like Kiswahili, was from a standard that had been set a lot from those days in Europe. That's the reason why even the choir had to have 4-part harmony. Not that because you cannot add any other harmonies or cut down, it's just simply because it was the British way of doing it.
Yes.
And it became such a standard that even the narration is very critical. So if you're singing a song about Noah, yes, let me take Noah, let me take Jonah actually, let me do Jonah. If you're doing about Jonah.
The dude with the fish.
Yes. So Jonah, you start by saying, this is Jonah, he's from here. Probably that verse will also be that he lived in this place and was sent to this place. That's the end of verse 1. Then there's a refrain, there's a chorus that keeps ringing. You go to a chorus. Then you go to verse 2 and say that, but Jonah was given an instruction, but he disobeyed God because he thought of himself. That's the end of verse 2. Go to the chorus. Verse 3, then it explains how he disobeyed and what happened to him. By the time you get into verse 5, you have a picture. Verse 4, verse 5, now verse 4 has got the meat of it. that the punishment, the punishment God for disobeying, the fish came and ate him.
You know why I've laughed?
Yeah.
Because I thought this song was going to stop at verse 3. You know that's how normal songs are. One, two, three.
No. It was verse. In fact, I can tell you Nyimbo Standard. I wish I had the Nyimbo Standard that we use. It's called Nyimbo Standard. It's a government thing that was used now all over for the Anglican Church and the Baptists, I think, to some extent, and the Presbyterians, and now the Methodists. Nyimbo Standard, because we sang in Kiswahili. There's a song in Nyimbo Standard that has 19 verses. 2 phrases, 19 verses.
That's the whole service.
Because what's important is not the music. What's important is the story. I can't tell you about Jonah without telling you who he is. That there was a guy called Jonah.
Let me interject a bit. The players, I like to interject a lot. So at this time, the aim wasn't for you to listen to the melody.
No.
I mean, the aim wasn't the music per se, as we call music. It was a tool to pass a message.
Yes.
Or a tool to tell a story.
It was the story.
The whole core of this thing was the story.
The story. Remember, we're in a community where you have to stop. Don't be distracted by tea when you come to my house. Let's talk about your heart. How are you guys? We are fine. How is Mzee? He's fine. How is Mama? He's fine. God has kept us. If someone doesn't go, God has kept us, you realize this guy doesn't have a testimony. But still, it will be, that is what is important.
You guys were Acts. I understand why your mom now like reading the book of Acts.
Absolutely. In fact, you've just said it. Because now my mom valued the fact that she was very sentimental about Paul. Paul valued people and going out there to preach the gospel, to preach what is core. See, Jesus is core. Other things are just peripheral. Jesus is core before anything. Even in this conversation, Jesus is core. It's not about me. You get. So when we would sing all those songs, so you have a practice session. The good thing is that the melody is the same. The melody of the verse could differ from the chorus, but you keep repeating that. But there has to be that conclusion that in verse 5 or 6 or whatever that tells you now the story turns around you. You're asked a rhetoric question: are you going to disobey God? If God gives you a voice, if God gives you an assignment, using now Jonah's reference, will you obey or will you disobey? First, I want to leave you there. And you perform on Sunday. So those songs, we had three slots to perform on Sunday. And that was it. You're having 3 songs only in the league.
So explain to me, when you say you have 3 slots to perform, explain to me for much. I'm thinking of it, this is a church service.
It's a church service.
Okay, when, and where?
So, church service in the community chapel in Kingo. This is my normal Sunday. So let me say now I've gone Monday to Friday. I've been in Nyeri Primary School, and in between there I went to practice with the choir for Sunday. So Sunday service, after the Catholic Mass is done, because we are sharing the chapel, we will come in as the Protestants. And then our service begins. There's a liturgy that the Anglican Church and the Methodist Church use a lot. And that is 4 readings, standard. 4 readings, a psalm.
When you say 4 readings of the Bible?
4 readings of the Bible as part of the liturgy. So they're spread out. So that when you come in, the service begins with a reading. Most likely it's a psalm, Zaburi.
Yes.
Then after that is read, is like the introduction. Then you have an introduction hymn. Congregational hymn.
You guys, congregational hymn.
Congregational hymn.
You guys are
we open Nyimbo Standard.
Yes.
All of us we stand as we are part now of the congregation. The way it's designed, the men, if you're facing this way, the men on one side, the women on one side. Don't ask me how that happened. The men, because my dad would part ways with my mom at the door. But the men would sit on this side and the women on this side, facing the altar up on Bele. Now the altar would have now 2 seats that were like half pews, but sitting 1-man pew that has like a place. So the service leader is on the left and the preacher is on the right. Then in between there's like a furniture for reading.
Like the pulpit.
Pulpit, yeah. Like a small place for reading the Bible. Then on the edge, kabisa, the wall, is the main pulpit where the preacher now will walk from this side to go and preach. Then now the choir was on the right, facing, not sitting facing forward, face sideways. So that when you're singing, when you're performing, people can see us. They're not seeing our backs. That's how it was. So we used to sit like this sideways. We were feeling like we're the only guys who sit sideways. That's how it was. So reading, Zaburi begins, the reading, then we all stand for congregational hymn. Of course, the choir conductor, because we're the guys who are leading, will be more vocal. We sing the hymn and we have to finish the whole hymn. Then an opening prayer, whatever it is, which is in the liturgy. Then from there now, we can have first a reading, which could be an Old Testament reading. Then now maybe there, instead of a hymn, the choir can sing. Okay. So the choir now sings a song. Then you go to maybe announcements or whatever. Yeah. Then a third reading. The third reading must be a gospel from the first Gospels of
Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John.
Yes, of the New Testament. And in many cases, those churches stand up for the gospel reading. That's how I knew the gospel. Because I know this one is very important to stand. You kiskia John, you stand. They've already been pasted up there, but they psych you like you're going to stand for this one. Yeah. Stand. And we read it. Then now the choir sings. Then from there now, presentations can come up. Maybe the women's, like a group of women's...
Fellowship,
No, women's prison. Yes, in the prisons, whatever. Yes. Women's prison come and perform. The medium prison, these petty thieves of India, they have a choir, they sing, and then now our choir sings before the preacher comes to speak. Yeah. And so on. Then you finish off, maybe, with another hymn and so on. If it's a communion service, it has its dynamic, maybe we'll sing more songs. Yeah. But on average, used to do 2 to 3 songs.
So, help me understand. So, take me like a danda.
Yeah.
I heard you say Protestant.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned Anglican. Which is which?